All right, how we doing? Welcome everybody. Hey everybody, welcome. All right. Now, I hope we got our thinking caps on today because we're going to do some thinking. Okay? Now, as I promised, the Thursday show is going to be a little bit about, well, anything and everything. The Tuesday show is for beginners. Okay? So everybody's welcome to both. But we'll basically emphasize on Tuesdays things that are going to come up in the first year of your playing. Okay, maybe some expectations, maybe some where you should be, and little tips on how to help you get there. And on the Thursday show, it's pretty much anything goes. Now, I know when I was in the early part of my journey, I would see videos with these advanced techniques, that we're going to talk about today. And, I wanted to learn, I wanted to know, I wanted to understand, and I kind of did understand. Like when they explain it to me, I'm like, I get that. It makes sense. Oh, that's a movable shape and I can move it. Then it goes C, D, E, F and all that kind of stuff. And I got it. I just couldn't do it. Okay. And you know what? That's normal. So if you're at that part and you've got nothing to do, hey, sometimes, I know for me, the first time I heard something, straight over. And the third and fourth time that I heard it, straight over. And then about the seventh time I had it explained to me, it made a little more sense. But by the 28th time, I got it. All right, so that could be you, and that's cool, right? We all learn at our own paces, so don't ever worry about stuff like that. Now, what I'm going to show you a little bit today, we're going to talk about triads, okay? And I want you to understand something, that no matter where you are in your journey, in fact, if you know all your triads, you probably wouldn't be here and following someone like me. You would be following someone who is showing things on a daily basis that are way up here. A lot of us are never going to get there. And I think the most important thing is, don't look at that as a bad thing. The most important thing is we don't need to be there or get there. With what we're doing and what we want to achieve, you're not going to need triads. Things like that, and all these advanced techniques. And the other thing is, I haven't really made a note of this, but anytime I've ever seen anyone talking about triads or showing you triads, it's always been on an electric guitar. Now, I'm not saying always, like every time, but for the most part, it's always electric guitar. Look, there's no doubt that triad playing is really, in my opinion, it's perfect for electric guitars for a few reasons. First of all, some of the fingerings are a little bit, in my opinion, a little uncomfortable, they're a little awkward, okay, on an acoustic guitar. But when I try the same thing on an electric guitar, because the frets are just a little narrower and the fretboard is a bit narrower, and and it just seems to be a little easier. So that's probably why, one of the reasons, right, is that it's, first and foremost, they're much easier to play on an electric guitar. The other reason is because of some of those awkward fingerings, like this one here. You just gotta, on an electric guitar with your pedals all ramped up, you really just gotta make contact with those strings to get a nice kind of, you know what I mean? To get a nice kind of tone or voicing, right? And there we go. Hopefully they'll, no, maybe not. All right. Well, I'm trying to make my chat stand up all the time. When you guys make a comment, it only stays up for a few seconds, and I'm trying to figure out why that does that. So if anybody knows, I'd be more than grateful. So look, another reason a triad or triads are probably more suited for electric guitar. Look, any way you want to say it, they're how would you say it? A tinier, weaker chord. Okay, so quickly I'll explain why. I mean, let's take our C chord. Okay, so in the C chord, we're actually playing 5 strings. I think they're both really good. I think there's really good guitars in both those companies. You know. Now, when we play a C chord, we're playing 5 strings. But if we analyze the notes that we're actually playing, we have a fretted C, we have a fretted E, we have an open G, and we have a fretted C. And if you put your pinky down here, you've got another fretted G, and if you don't fret that, you've got another E note. So look, C, E, and G are the first, the third, and the fifth notes. First, third, and fifth. That's what makes up a chord, okay? 3 notes. And if we look at this C, for example, we have only playing those 3 notes, okay? We're either fretting them or we're playing them as open strings. So in a way, we're playing double. We're playing like 2 C chords in one. If we look at the G, the same thing. The first is the G, the third is the D, and the fifth is the B string. I'm sorry, the third is the B and the fifth is the D string. So we just need those 3 notes, right? Now, if we look at the other notes we have open D, open G, open B, all repeats, and then down here we have another G, and if we don't use that, we have an E chord or an E note, all right? So generally that's the way we would play the G. And sometimes even with the 2 fingers, because that's a D with the ring finger now. So we have a D and an E, right? I'm sorry, a D and a G and a B, and an open D and an open G, okay? And an open B. So we're just repeating the notes. So we're only playing 3 notes, but we're playing them twice to give it a richer, fuller sound, right? So that's the thing with the triad. The triad is just stripping away all those other notes, the duplicates, and just playing 3 notes on 3 strings. That's it. That's a triad. So if we look at C, for example, we have 5 strings that we play. But let's take a look at the first note, which in a C, the first note is C, right? That's note number 1. We skip note number 2, which is a D, and we go to note number 3, which is an E. So we have C, then this finger here is fretting the E, right? And then we skip the F and we go to the 5th note, which is a G, right? So we have, in our C note, we have a C, an E, and a G right there on those strings. So if I just play those 3 strings, C, E, and the open G, just those 3 strings, I have a C triad, all right? Okay, so that's the theory behind the triads, is you only play 3 notes of the chord, the first, the third, and the 5th. Now, I think you know diminished chords. We're going to do that in another lesson because, well, first of all, diminished chords really at the level that I deal with here on this channel really don't come into play, because in the major scale, the diminished is the 7th chord, and we don't really use the 7th chord. We use 1 to 6, right? Which is our 3 majors and our 3 minors. But I am going to talk about diminished chords, right? Just not today, right? We can only do so much in a day. So happy Thanksgiving to you guys too. And all right, so we now know what a triad is, right? It's 3 notes that we play. Okay, now they're not as, I'm not saying they're difficult, but now if you want to get into this world, you are now really starting all over again, and you're going to have to learn. Triads are played over 3 string sets, like a set of 3 strings. There's a number of triads that are played. Happy Thanksgiving to you guys too in the US, on strings 1, 2, and 3, 2, 3, and 4, 3, 4, and 5, and 4, 5, and 6. Each of those string sets has a major shape, a minor shape, and a diminished shape. Or in other words, a natural triad, an inverted triad, and a second inverted triad. And all that means, okay, is that if we take a triad in its natural way, just like a chord, the root note is always the lowest note. In other words, the note closest to us on the guitar, because the strings get lower as we go up on the fretboard, right? Up this way on the fretboard. So if we take the 3 chords, or the 3 notes in a triad, and it's a natural triad, then the root note will be the lowest one. So on string 1, 2, and 3, our root note will be located across string number 3. So that's just like saying when you learn a bar chord, you go by, on the major bar chords with the E shape, right? You go by the notes on the 6th string. So here I would be playing a G, no matter what they're, I would just look at where this finger is and say that's a G. Now I'm playing some sort of an A, some sort of a B, some sort of a C, etc., based on where this note is fretted. And then on A-shaped bar chords, we use the 5th string, right? So that would be the C bar chord, the D bar chord, the E bar chord, and so on. Well, with triads, it's the same thing. But in this case, we're only using 1, 2, and 3 strings, right? So the lowest string is the 3rd, and that's the one that we'll track what we're actually playing. So we're going to start off in C major. Now, the shape for a C major triad on the first 3 strings is this. Okay? Now, for all of you, if you go to my community tab, you should see a Google document, and I don't know if I uploaded the image too, but if you click on that link, you will see the 2 shapes that I'm going to deal with today, the major and the minor, and that might help you, okay? So go and check that out quickly on the community tab, and you'll see that there are 2 images there, okay? Now, why is this a C major triad? Okay, so remember the root is going to be the highest string or the lowest note. So it's going to be along this 3rd string. So we have our ring finger on that fret right here, and that is a C note. So that's going to tell me when I look down that I'm playing in C. Now remember, we need the 1st, the 3rd, and the 5th note. So this shape gives us exactly that. The 1st note, the root, is right here, C, okay? The 3rd, so the 2nd would be D, which we're not using, the 2nd note in the C. The 3rd is the E. So that's right here, my pinky, right? There's my D on the 2nd string. I go up 2 frets, and there's my E. So there's my C and my E, right? All I'm missing now is the G, and that is right here on the 1st string, 3rd fret. We all know that. So this, disregard the fat finger for now, okay? This is our C major triad shape. Now I only play the 3 strings that I'm fretting, okay? You can already hear it's a high sort of, it's kind of a weak, it's kind of a weak tinny sound, right? Now this is a movable shape. So that means that all you have to learn is this shape, the major shape along these three strings. And you will have C, D, E, F, and G. Now if you want to go one more, we can do that, but a lot of people don't have cutaways and it's hard on an acoustic guitar. That would be an A, okay? And of course that would be our B, but that's almost impossible if you don't have a cutaway. So we'll stop really at G, okay? In my opinion, not a nice sounding batch of chords, in my opinion. But again, that's where the electric thing comes in. You got your pedals, you can add a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and you can make it sound richer and stronger and fuller and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, we're only playing three notes, and we're playing them on the thinnest three strings. Okay? Now, you got to pick your battles when it comes to triads, because remember, there are three of these shapes. We're going to get to the second one in a second. This is the first one. There are three of these in each string set. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4 different string sets. And each have shapes that you have to learn. So you are in for a learning curve, all right? And remember, just like when you learned your open chords, it's going to sound weird at first, going to feel weird. It's just not going to be right. Okay, but that will come, just like it did with your open chords, just like it did for those of you that have started learning bar chords and you're starting to get around your bar chords, right? There's a learning curve. Come on, we know that. So this is no different. So now we've learned C, D, E, F, G. Now, if you plan on mixing a triad with an open chord, remember, you're going to have to know how to get to that shape. So again, it's like learning all over again. So let's say, here's my C. Let's say I play my G here like an open, and then I want to play that C. I've got to get right back here, real quick. G, C, G, C. That takes some practice, okay? So that's what you're in for. If you stay within, just like bar chords, if you stay within the ecosystem of the shapes of the bar chords, technically you can slide one shape, or you can quickly transition to another shape and be able to slide it as well. So that way you've got everything covered with the two shapes. Well, it's the same with triads, okay? What we want to do is, now this is only my opinion, okay? Remember, the sound that we're going to get from the first three is going to be quite different than the sound we get from the last three, right? We're going to be a lot lower as we play the strings 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, and 6. So it may not work if we switch in a song, and it may. So you may be able to get by with just moving. There's C, D, G, C, D. Right? That G to me is a little high, right? So therefore, you would have to combine it with another shape that's played over the first three strings. And we'll get to that a little later, okay? Right? Do you follow? Because that way, just like in bar chords, if we play F, G, D, right? F, G, there's a big difference in the voicing of this D than that F, but they're in the same chord progression, and that may not work. So really what you should do is you should play F, G, and then probably your D here. We change the shape up of the bar chords so we don't have to come all the way up here to keep the same shape. The same thing will apply to triads, okay? That you're going to end up having to change your shape to maybe play a triad on the next string setup to keep it within the same kind of voicing, right? As opposed to sliding all the way here to get your G. Because that G is going to sound higher than the C and the D that you're playing, or the A and the C or whatever, right? If you're playing A and then you're playing C, this might be too high. So A, C, and then you want to play a G somewhere else. You might play it here, but that's, again, we're going to talk about that soon, but that's another shape that we have to use, right? Okay. I just want to kind of set the stage for what you're in for here. And by all means, don't let me deter you. Just because I personally don't rely on triads, it doesn't mean you don't have to, right? I'm giving you the good, the bad, and the ugly. So, all right. Now, that's the C major, D major, E major, F major, G major, A major, right? Well, what if we need a D minor? What if the chord progression is G, C, D minor, right? So then we would have G, right? C, and there's my D, major. So where's the D minor on all this? Okay, I'm glad you asked. All right. You remember the 1, 3, 5, right? Those are the three notes that we make our major chords on. And in C, it's C is 1, E is 3, and G is 5. 1, 3, 5. Now to get a minor version of that same, we play the 1, 3, 5, but we, what they call, flatten the third. Big fancy music word. Hey, just flatten that third and we're okay. What the hell did he mean by that, Joe? Okay, what that means is you take the third note and move it down 1 fret. Okay, so let's do that in this case. So let's look at our triad, right? Let's go back to C to make it so that we're not confusing ourselves. So we're started in C, that's C major. And now we want to play a D minor, okay? So what we do is we take a sip of tea. Very important. So there's our C major. We know this is a movable shape, so we can go up 2. Now we're at D major, but we need a D minor. So what we have to do is flatten the third. So the first we know is the first note, the root note of the chord. So we're in D now, right, because we slid up. So my ring finger, right, remember the root notes are on that third string, right across. So now the root note is there, that's the 1, right? So that's D. And we skip the E, right? And we go to an F. That's the third. That's where my pinky is, on the F, right? And then the 5th would be the A, and that's where my finger is here. So on the C, it's C, E, G, C, E, G. When we move up to D, it's D, right? F sharp, okay? A. D, F sharp, A. And if we look at a D major chord, we have A, D, F sharp. The same 3 notes, just in a different order. Okay? So we're on the right track. So there's my C major, slide it up, D major. The first is the D, the third is the F sharp, and the 5th is the A. We have to flatten the third. So we got to take this pinky and slide it back 1 fret. So from an F sharp, it will go to an F. But wait a minute, I can't do that unless I have those big, long pretzel fingers that I can put over the top. I can't do that. So I've got to change my fingering. So now we're going to change the fingering so that we can play that note right there. And in order to do that, I'm going to bring in my fat finger and take away my pinky. Now I got a more recognizable shape. You probably recognize this shape. It looks like an F or a C, okay? But it's played on consecutive strings. So now, let's recap that. We got our C major, D major, and then we flatten by bringing this in to this fret, the second string, take away our pinky and leave this one in place. So now we have a D, which is the 1, a flat third. So in other words, it was here before, a third, but now it's a flat third because we've moved it down 1. And this one stays the same. So now we have D major, D minor. So now we can go C, D minor, C, D minor, C, D minor. See how it works? And of course, if we move that up 2, we got an E minor, F minor, G minor, C minor, B minor. Okay? That's the world of triads. Now, someone mentioned about the diminished. I don't know if you meant just general diminished chords or diminished chords within a triad. I'm not sure, but I'm going to tie that into something we're going to talk about in a few minutes. So just be patient about that. So right now, you can get by, unless you're playing jazz, unless you're playing, you know, a little more sophisticated stuff, okay? You can get by with majors and minors, just like we do in the open position. We know how to play an A and an A minor, and a D and a D minor, right? An E and an E minor. Okay? We know how to do that, and we use both of them. Well, now we can do the same with triads, albeit only on the first 3 strings. We know our shape, we know our major shape. Takes a little getting used to, because remember, you're only able to play those 3 strings that you're fretting. Okay? But that's your major and minor triads located across the first 3 strings. So if you're still, and rightly so, a little intimidated or miffed about what this is, right? Let's look at some things that I think most of you, especially those of you that have been following me for quite some time, will already know what and how to do. And these are just triads that you're probably already playing and you don't even know that they're triads. Okay? Let's take a look at some of those and then see if we can use any of those to help fill in the blanks of certain chords we want to play in a grouped area to get the same voicing. We'll just take a look and see if we have any of those. So let's take a look at the first shape that we know how to play, that we are actually playing triads once we leave the home base, okay? And that is your A shape. Now, I play, and some of you play your A shape like this, and there's a reason, okay? Because when we get to this level, we change generally from playing like this so that we can play all 3 with 1 finger, and then we have fingers left over to do some picking, right? So we could, you know, we got versatility there, okay? So if we're playing our A like this, what we're doing is we're playing an A major, and we're playing that open A string, and we're going right through the strings of the guitar, of which 3 of them are fretted, right? Right here. And the 3 that are fretted are 4, 3, and 2. Now, if we just play those, only those three. We don't include this one, and we don't include the high E, which rings out on an A major chord. If we don't play those two strings, we just play the three, we're playing an A triad over strings 2, 3, and 4. Now, if we take that shape, now remember, that's a major shape, so it's movable. Okay, just like this one here, our C shape is movable. Okay, so is this one. So what happens when we just play those three strings in A and we move them 2 up? Now we got a B. Hey, wait a minute here. We got a B. Do you know what that means? Look, that means I don't have to play this anymore. This B major bar chord, which stops so many beginners from really enjoying the key of A or key of E in the blues, right? Because if you want to play the 12 bar blues, you need the major chords in E, which are E, A, and that bar chord here, or the bar chord here, E, A, right? And we don't want to deal with bar chords at our level. So now look what we got. We've just stumbled upon this B right here. And try to be strict, right? And just hit those strings that you're fretting. That is a B. Now here's a B major chord, and here's the B triad. I mean, is there a difference? It sounds so close, right? I use this all the time, especially when I need a B major for just a couple of beats. Let's say they've split a 4/4 into 2, and there's 2 beats of B and then 2 beats of something else. I'll use the 2 beats right here. I'll use the B there, and I'll even use it on a 4 beats, no problem. But what I probably might not do is if the song was in B major and the first verse was 2 or 4 bars of B major, I may not stay there for the 4. Okay, I may play the original bar version, or I may play it here. Right? I mean, I don't know why, but that's the way I do it, okay? Now, a lot of people, purists included, will jump on you and say, don't play this for your B major. You are hurting yourself. You are hindering yourself. You are being lazy. You are not a good guitar player. Blah, 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 blah. Okay? Don't listen to them. You're playing a B triad instead of a B major. You're not committing murder, all right? You're not cutting up your guitar. All you're doing is playing a different version, a slightly, like a 1-note difference. Maybe 2 notes if you include that, which doesn't ring out anyways. Right? If you include that high E. So you're only really playing a 1-note difference. So, don't worry about it. So now we've got our A, our B, C, D, E, F, G. B flat. It's all there. We already know that. We play an A all the time. And I mean, you can do it with your 3 fingers. It just gets a little tricky when you get up here because those frets get narrow together. So now you got A, B, C, to the G. You got to kind of get your fingers all in there for that G, but all right? So you already knew these, and these are triads. All right? Let's take a look at another shape that we already know and have probably already played around over the neck with, and that's our D chord. There's our D major, okay? If we move that up 2, we got an E, and we're only playing those first 3 strings. Okay? F, now what I do here is I line up the dots with my forefinger, so that's F, G, A. There's all the way up, if you can reach on your guitar. D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D. Now you've just learned triads using that third shape, which tends to be kind of the diminished shape, right? So that is why I was holding off on answering your question. So now we know in the 3 strings, we know here's our C, right? Here's our C minor. Here's our D. Here's our D minor. And so on. Okay? Now we have D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And back to the D if you don't have a cutaway, or if you have a cutaway. And on electric guitar, no problem. You can just keep going. Okay? We already know that. And those are triads. But again, you just play those 3 strings, 3 notes that you're fretting, nothing else. Okay? So all right, so are we sure that these are triads, or that this is a triad? So let's do the test. And whenever you don't know what you're playing and you wonder if it's a triad, and if you know it's a triad, you're wondering what it is, okay? Let's take a look at the notes of the G major. So we're playing our D chord right here. All right, so what are we fretting? Remember, it's all about the fretted notes, nothing else. So what are we fretting here? Okay, so the closest to me, that would be a D chord, okay? Or a D note, sorry. The next string would be a G. And then the third note, the highest note, is a B. So we have D, B, I'm sorry, D, G, B, D, G, B. That sounds familiar. If we go to our G major, we have a G, B, D. So it's basically almost backwards. So this would be called an inversion, an inverted triad. Same 3 notes of the G major, but played in a different order. Okay, so instead of playing G, B, D, right, we're playing D, G, B. So that would be called an inversion, because we're inverting the order of the notes, but they're the same 3 notes. Okay? So now, remember before we said trying to keep things in the same grouping, right? Well, let's say we had a C, okay? So here's our C, and we go to the D. We got E, and then we want another, let's say we want another, I don't know, we want another C, okay? Well, what we could do is we could play, there's a C, we've changed shapes and we've gone to a different string set, but we're playing a triad, which, as we know, is A to B to C. So now I can play C, right? I could switch here and play D, and I could play my G with this shape right here, right? So I could play C, then I can put my fingers here and play D, and then I can play G. And that's what you see a lot of times when you watch the electric guitar player in a band, or if you watch a band that has like multiple guitar players, you're inevitably going to see one of those guys or girls playing triads. One of them is probably going to play open chords. The other one might play with a capo, right? Open chords, or they'll be playing bar chords. So you'll have three guitar players playing the same chords, but all playing them different ways. So you're going to get different voicings of the same chord ringing out to create one C, one D, and say one G. But it's going to come from three sources playing those chords three different ways. So it can really get complex. Now, a lot of times, and I'm sure this has happened to you, where you go to Inner Google and you want to learn a song, and you don't really know anything about this. You just know that, hey, you're an open chord player and you can play songs, and I'm going to go and Google the chords. And you get the chords, and they could be D, C, G. And you play them, and you think, you know what? It's not sounding right. Well, there's a chance that they're playing it, or there's a good chance that they're playing it in triads. D, C, G, which is going to sound different to D. This is deeper and richer. This is thinner and lighter and higher. But they still are the same. Okay? Now let's look at one more shape that, well, again, if you've been following me, there's complete videos about all of this in my channel, generally called moving chords up the neck. So if we take the F and we move it up, and we're not overly fussy about not hitting any of the other strings, but now we got to be a little bit more fussier, because now we're playing triads. F, G, A. Okay? Now the other thing is too, we're only playing those three. So we eliminate the high E. We don't want that to ring out. You could mute it with this first finger. Okay? And we're not playing this fifth string. So now we have a G. Okay? Now remember, we were wondering what notes were in a G regular open chord. G, B, D in order. So when we play our G this way, which is an F moved up, what notes are we fretting? Well, we're fretting this note right here, first note right here, which is D. Right here, what note is this? B. And then right here on our ring finger, what's always on our ring finger? The root. There's our triad, D, B, G, okay? Or G, B, D. Now this is a proper triad because the notes are in order. 1, 3, 5, G, B, D. Okay, so that's a natural triad. So, for all of you that, oh, Ray said if that's an F, this is a G, and that's an A, and a B, and a C, and a D, and an E. And how many times have I told you that, oh, I love this A right here, and I love the picking on this A. Well, guess what? That's an A major triad. Now, don't be confused with at the first time when we did this along here, the C with this shape here, and I said that if we flatten these out, we get that shape, and it's like an F. Okay, it is, but it's on the first three strings. When we move the F up, it's on strings 2, 3, and 4. So we're on a different string set. Okay, so that is a different, we can't use that shape on the same frets. We have to use it differently. So in other words, this shape on 2, 3, and 4 played here for the G, if we were to move this down 1 and play them like this, now it's a C minor. It's a completely different chord. Okay, so just because the shape is the same, we're on a different string set. Yeah, I know, it just adds to the complexity of it, but that's triads, right? And all of this seems like literally Chinese, right? Until it doesn't. And once you realize, oh yeah, okay, each string set has a minor and a major shape and a diminished shape. Okay, and all the diminished means is, remember how we flattened the third? So we had the C, right? Okay, so we had this shape here, and that was our C major triad. And I said we got to flatten the pinky note, right? So we replaced the fingers and we took the pinky off and we got this shape now. That's C minor. Well, if we flatten the fifth, okay? So if we flatten the fifth, it's a little uncomfortable. We got to drop the fifth one. That's a diminished chord. And that's all that is. And it's hard to play, in my opinion. But again, like anything else, you get used to it. Your fingers stretch over time. Like you just can do it. It just works out. But also the thing to remember that most of these guys and girls that show you this, they're playing it on an electric guitar where the frets are closer together and the fretboard is thinner, and it's easier to make those little shifts, especially those flattening things, okay? But that's all this is taking 3 notes and manipulating them by moving them in different orders. So that's called an inverted triad, when it's the same 3 notes, but they appear in different orders than they should, okay? There are 3 types of orders: natural, and then inverted, and a second inversion, okay? So, you know, it does get a little complicated at first. But I think what you need to do is, or what I did was, okay, so I memorized the shape, the major shape on this first 3 strings, okay? Right? So you've got this right going on right here, okay? And we know we can move that up. And then if we flatten this, we change that by flattening. That's called flattening. We change the shape to do so. We got the minor version of that chord, right? So we move down, we got D, and then we flatten, and we got D minor. And the same thing, right? We regain our shape, we move it up, there's E, and if we take the pinky off and we put this down, it's E minor, okay? So sometimes people will just memorize their minor shapes because it's easy. It's 1, 2, 3, and go, okay, so what am I keying on to get my E? So I'm keying on the ring finger. E, D, C, B. Right? This would be my G minor. Right? A minor is another triad that we learn. So now we've got A minor, B minor, A minor, and that's how I learned them. I didn't go by string set, learning all 3 shapes and all that. I kind of learned them like my bar chords as I needed them, right? So now let's look at everything that we've talked about when it comes to triads, right? We've learned new shapes, which is this one, okay? And then the minor shape. So we've learned that. Okay? And if we mix that with what we already know, which is a D shape played here as a G, and a D shape played here as an F, and a D shape played here as an A, and with this shape on strings 2, 3, and 4, A, G, A, B, C, 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 right? B, C, B, C. Now it's starting to fill in a little bit. Now I don't know all of them, right? I'd have to think about it because I don't use it. I don't practice it because I don't use it. And remember what I told you starting out, right? And especially the beginners out there. When you say, okay, I'm going to learn how to play guitar, I want to learn how to play guitar, be careful because this is part of it. And when you don't know anything about theory and how chords are made and all that stuff, and someone hits you with this in the first year or 6 months you're playing guitar, like you're going to be like, hey, I'm off this boat. I can't do it. And that's natural. I quit, right? Because I just couldn't, I didn't understand this stuff. Well, the reality is I shouldn't have been learning it. You shouldn't be learning it. Okay, so don't worry about it. Like I always say about the car thing, right? I want to drive a car. All right. Do I need to know how the cooling system works and how the engine works and how the transmission is put together? No. All I need to know is where does the key go? Where does the gas go? And what do those two pedals do? And once I figure that out, I grab the steering wheel and I make the car go. It's simple. Same with guitar. This is stuff that we're dealing today that you really don't have to worry about. And when you do, you'll know it. You'll know it. You'll get to a part in your guitar playing and you're still hungry and you still want more and you still want to climb that ladder. Then you're going to say, hey, I got to get into triads or power chords or bar chords or whatever. And you will put your mind to it and you will have a good guitar foundation. So you'll never be a complete beginner again. None of those 4 months of just playing 2 or 3 chords trying to get them, oh, my fingers are sore. No more of that. That's over. You've done all that. Now when you start learning new techniques, you're already going to have an infrastructure, a physical and mental infrastructure built up. You're going to know your way around the strumming, and you're going to know your way around the theory, okay? Hey, happy Thanksgiving, guys. I don't play cover songs because YouTube will copyright, will throw me a copyright. I'll have to edit it out after. I do come on live and play songs, but not Tuesdays and Thursdays. I come on live other days randomly. If you subscribe to the channel, you'll get notified, and I'll play all the covers that I can. I don't know every cover, all right? But I'll play, if I know it, I'll play it. Well, I don't know about the YouTube God, but if you're referring to me, I don't think so. But I do try to break things down as simple as possible because that's what I was looking for. Remember, I'm just like you. Everybody out there that doesn't know me, I'm just a guy that taught myself how to play guitar, and I didn't start till I was 50. And I had no prior musical knowledge, education, background. I've never sung a note. I've never played a note in my life. And it's just something I always wanted to do. And I thought, well, how hard could it be to play a few chords? I see my friends do it. It looks easy. Well, here we are years later. I quit twice, a year each time I quit. So I played a year, I quit for about 3 to 6 months, somewhere around there. I picked it back up. I played for a year, quit again, right? And then the third time, out with the old, and I completely just did what I wanted to do and did it my way. And that's what I share with you on my channel, how I learned how to play guitar. It's not for everybody. The purists hate it because I take shortcuts and cheat and do things and I avoid bar chords and all that kind of stuff. And I use a capo and I play all open chords and oh, it drives people nuts. I get a lot of, not so much lately, but when I first started, I got raked over the coals. And you know what? That's cool. I really don't care what anyone thinks, and nor should you. At the end of the day, we want to play our guitar, we want to play our songs, and it doesn't matter how we play them. And it really doesn't. So what I was saying before about driving a car, you don't need to know how the engine works or the transmission to drive a car, okay? But one day, some of you will realize, you know what? I want to change my own oil. I want to fix my own car. And you will start learning about your car. And as a guitar player, the analogy to that would be, okay, you know what? I play a G, and I play a C, and I play an A, and I play a D all the time. I want to learn how those chords are made. Okay? You don't have to. But for those of you that do, that's your evolution. And next thing you know, and that's what triads are. Once you know how a chord is made, the 1, the 3, and the fifth note, okay, make the major chord. The 1 and the flat third, right, by moving it over 1 fret to the low end of the guitar, and the 5th makes a minor chord. And then if we flatten that 5th, the last one, and we move it down, we got a diminished chord. That's the basic description of what we're doing here today. And once you understand that, now you can apply that to anything. But it takes some doing. It takes some practice. It takes some quick calculations in the old noodle. And that's why I always say your guitar foundation is your left hand, your right hand, your ears, because you got to hear what you're doing, and your brain, it's got to calculate all this, preferably in advance. So as you're playing and you're singing, your brain should already be ahead, thinking, okay, these are the lyrics you got to get ready for. These are the new chord progression of the chorus. Okay? If you want to play this in bar chords or power chords, this is where you're going to have to just, your brain is doing all that just slightly ahead, right? But until you get to that stage, your brain is strictly focused on one thing, and that's usually the left hand. And then once we get good at that, it's the right hand. And then once we get good at that, we can put our left and right on autopilot, and our brain can start thinking of other things. And that just takes time. The more you play, the more you practice, the more you put into it, the more and the quicker you'll get out of it. And that's just the reality of the situation. All right? So let's just do a quick recap on the triad situation. Okay, we're going to come back with more in another, another lesson or another show. We're going to come back with more on the different strings, because remember I told you there's various string sets, right? 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5, and 4, 5, 6. We got to deal with all of that. The reason I start, and I urge you to start here on these first 3 strings, because as you progress, you are going to play a lot of things here more than here. You're going to play a lot of your little riffs, which you're going to find are all tied into those triads, which are all tied into your bar chords, right? So quickly what I mean by that, right? If we take, say, an A minor, okay, and we look at what we were just doing. So if I take that, or I'm sorry, that A major bar chord, if I take that A major, and I leave my fat finger on that string, I can pivot like that, and that's that A triad we were talking about. And then go back to the bar chord. This finger doesn't move, and I just move around it, and there's my A again. And the same thing with G. If I'm playing a G bar chord, I can just fold everything up, and there's my G triad. They're all connected, right? And once you get into it, you're going to see that. Everything, if you're playing in A, everything happens in this box here. If you're playing in G, everything here. So I got my G triad here, right? Okay? I got my G triad here. I got, I got stuff going on. This is the one I hate playing the most. This is a G, but it's all in those boxes there. Okay, just so you know. So look, what we've done today is we've learned our major, okay, and our minor shapes over the first 3 strings for our chords. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, right? Then we've added in some triads that we already play that we probably didn't even know were triads, and that is things like what we call moving up the neck. So we take the F shape, now we're on strings 2, 3, and 4. We got F, G, A, B, C, D, E. And we can mix and match. So we can play C here, okay? Then we might go to the G, which would be here, right above it. And then we might slide up here to grab a B. Like there's so many things that we can do by mixing and matching. We could use the C here in the A shape, right? Or the D, D, C, D, right? We can go here and grab the G. F, G, A. So we've got, just by learning that, we've got a bit of an arsenal. So then the next thing you would do is you take your favorite songs and relearn them. So let's say you're playing, your song in, whatever, G, A, D. Well, now you got to learn them in a different way. So now I can maybe learn, there's my D, and I'll play this because I'm already down here. There's my A. So now I got my D major, right? I got my A. And if I want a C, well, why don't I grab it right here? So now I'm in the same 3 frets and I can play my 3 chords. And it's just a matter of sitting it down. Now they're going to sound different. It's going to sound lighter and thinner, but it's still your song. And if you really want to see that it works, play your song on a backing track or whatever and play the triad version along with it. And that's a good way to practice your triads. And remember, they're not going to sound exactly the same, but you're not going to sound sour because if you're playing them right, you're still playing a C, you're still playing a D, you're still playing a G. Okay? So if you guys have any questions about that, you can send them along, or you can kind of buzz on it for a while, and you can hit me on Tuesday or Thursday live, and you can get a clarification. I'm going to be doing another video. There is some triad stuff on the site, but I'm going to update it and produce another video to go along with this live that will put this, because these lives don't always stay up. So I'll produce something that you have a reference to, okay? And you've got that sheet, simple as it was, that I put in the community tab. Check my community tab often, okay? It should be right along the top there. I think the last one is community. There's a little poll in there. It's like one question, and just give me your answer. And it tells me where you are in your guitar journey. Okay, there's 3 or 4 questions. If you can answer that, that'd be fantastic, because that's how I know to make content that will help the majority of you, right? Anybody else have anything that they want and are wondering about? You can always email me or hit me up in these lives, and I'd be happy to produce a video just for you, actually, if because it's not only just you. If you have that question, there's going to be all kinds of other people that are wondering the same thing. So if I create a video based on your needs, I'm probably going to, take care of other people as well at the same time. So that's your basic. So don't be overwhelmed by triads. Yes, they're a little difficult and complicated at first. But again, I'm going to tell you, remember, so was just playing a regular C and a D. Or an E and an A. That was overwhelming the first few weeks, right? You're like, oh my God, what am I getting into? So there's your triads. A couple of things that I also wanted to talk about, because now, today is kind of like an advanced day, right? The one thing I'm always mentioning, and you always see me usually opening and closing any of my shows, I play along to backing tracks. Okay? And I'm not really worried about, I don't use any effects or anything doing so. I'm really more worried about just matching the notes to what I'm playing to. In other words, finding the right notes when maybe a couple might work, which is actually the best note of the two, right? And figure that out. And also just work on staying in a key, no matter what scale you're talking about. Now remember, we've talked about this before. You don't have to play the A minor pentatonic. And I'm going to use that because that's the the one we all learn first. Everywhere I go and they talk about minor pentatonics, for whatever reason, it all starts with A. I don't know if that's because it's right in the middle of the board, it's easy, as opposed to it gets a little difficult up here, maybe. I don't know. Or it's because, well, A minor pentatonic, A minor, it's kind of a bluesy thing, and I don't know, it just goes well, it sounds good, and I don't know what the reason is, okay? So I'm going to be the same. I'm going to assume that we all I learned that first. Didn't know what I was learning, but I learned it. And I'm going to assume that a lot of you here are the same. So I always use the A minor pentatonic as a reference point. So when we play our scales, if you want to play a scale, and again, you don't have to, right? You can play what I call the Ray scale or the octave scale. And remember, it's just a succession of notes. That's all a scale is. But when we put a name to it, like an A minor pentatonic or an E major or a D major pentatonic or a G blues scale or a whatever, okay? We designate that as, okay, play an A minor pentatonic over this chord progression. So that means that everybody knows exactly what notes we have to play. A minor pentatonic notes. Sorry, A, C, D, E, and G. 5 notes. That's it. We got to play those in certain patterns all over the fretboard. Okay. But we don't have to play A minor pentatonic. We could play A major pentatonic. We could play just an A scale. And what do you mean by just an A scale? Well, what I mean is, let's just play the notes in succession. So A, B, right? D, E, G, A, and then slide it over. A, B, C, D, G, A. Same notes. Oh, okay. What scale was that? Well, I don't know. It's kind of pentatonic-y, but it's not, because if it was, it would be A, C, D, E, and I'm playing A, B, D, E. These notes are the same, G, A, okay? But then I move over, okay? And I go A, B, and there's no B in the pentatonic. So it's not a pentatonic, but it works, because it's a succession of notes that I can play over a song in the key of A, and everything will sound just right. And to show you that, so this is C major, right? Okay, so we can play, I don't know what happened there. What happened there. I think that's a YouTube thing, people. If you got disconnected, I think that's a YouTube thing, because I am hardwired to the internet, so there should be no reason for that. And I don't know if you've experienced a disconnect there, but I just got a reconnect button to push, so whatever. But all right, so what we're doing now, I'm not playing right? I'm not playing the C minor or the C major or A minor pentatonic there, because I'm probably missing or supplementing 3 or 4 notes along the way. But I am playing a scale. And it's basically just, again, running the octaves, starting on A, B, run down to this A here, slide everything over and play the same notes again. Stop here, right? Play them again. Right? I'm not playing pentatonic. I'm not playing major pentatonic. I'm just playing notes in order. Or, you know, like chromatically, but skipping randomly. So in other words, I'm going A, B, but I'm not playing the C. I'm going to the D and the E. I'm not playing the F. I'm going to the G and the A. Right? So I'm playing A, B, C, D, G, A, B, C, D, G, A. So I'm not playing all the notes in order, but it's not a minor pentatonic either, or a major pentatonic. It's just notes in order that sound good with what I'm playing to. Now, if someone was sitting next to me and they were playing the A minor pentatonic notes to this, and which is what you should, we're going to have an issue, because I'm going to hit some B's that don't belong in the scale, right? And it's not going to sound right. But when you're playing on your own, it doesn't matter. It's only you. Okay? So again, don't get all hung up on scales and you have to play this and you have to play that. No, you play what sounds right. And if you don't have a name for your scale, but the notes sound right, those are the notes you're going to play. Sometimes when you analyze it and back up and say, okay, what was I just playing? I was playing this scale. But you just didn't realize it. And there's a reason scales sound good in music, is because they're supposed to. They're formulated so that those notes all work together. So if you play those notes in order, they're all going to sound good. Makes sense, right? Okay. But again, you don't get hung up on things like that. So in this case, we can use, if it's confusing, we can use the pentatonic, minor pentatonic. Okay, so a couple of things about this is we tend to play, when we learn scales or successions of notes, we tend to play them in order. And that's great. It's a great way to get your fingering going. It's a great way to learn where the notes are. It's a great way to learn any shapes and patterns within that scale, right? So for example, I know I got these 3 strings that I can just rip 2 frets apart, go crazy on, and then I got to split it here. I may not know what those notes are, but I know that that's all good, because that's the way the shape goes, the pattern. Right? Okay. So we know that. But again, that's, well, it sounds like someone's practicing. It's not musical. Now we got to start making them musical, and we do that by picking out little groups of notes to play along with our recording, okay? We do that by skipping over some notes, playing some notes twice, you know, just creating some kind of texture. And 2 great little techniques that we can use to create texture in our scale playing or note playing. The first one is called a hammer-on, okay? And all that is we're going to play a note and hammer on the same string. Sometimes we play it open and then hammer on into the note. So in this case, I could play open A and hammer on to the D. So I'm playing A, D, A, D. I may not pluck it, I'll just, right? You hear it? It just, it'll ring out, especially on these strings. Right? So I'm playing the open E, but I'm fretting it here to make it a B. And it creates that. Right? So that's a hammer-on. A lot of times we use it across a string. So in other words, if we're playing in A minor pentatonic, and we're starting here on the D, you see how I just hammer on to the E? I don't play the E, right? I play the D, and as it's ringing, I turn it into an E. It's a nice little effect. D, E. Right? G, A. D, E. Okay? That's called a hammer-on. And this is when it's most commonly used, right? Is to grab that note 1 up. Okay? It's also used the way we started off, which is an open string into a fretted string. So E, G, E, G, E, G, E, G. Okay, that's a hammer-on. And it really spices things up. So good little technique to know. The other one is a slide. Now a slide can really elevate things, but we got to be careful. We don't want to overuse anything, right? We want to keep everybody on the edge of their seats, but it's a good one. And the slide is real simple. You initiate it. So again, we're in the A minor pentatonic. You initiate it on the note you want to play, and you just slide up one and back, or just stay up there and play that. So what you're doing is you're taking that voicing you're getting, the tone from the one note, in this case the D, and you're using that to run up to the E. Now you're not fretting the E, you're just going from D to E, or you're going from G to A, or you're going from C to D. There's the hammer-on version, there's the slide version. Now we can go. So by using those two techniques, now we've turned this into something like we got much more versatility to make music. Just using those two simple techniques, slides and hammer-ons, right? Okay, still trying to figure out this chat. So yeah, so once again, I'm trying to figure out why my chat, when you guys make a comment or ask a question, it comes up for about 3 seconds and then it just dies away. Where on my iPhone, it stayed, all the chat stayed, and I could scroll down and see everybody. And this doesn't do that. Right? So I can see your chat there, and then it just seems to, yeah, see, it just fades away into nothing, and I don't understand why that is. I like to be able to see it. But anyways, if I've missed any of your comments, I'm sorry. I just got to figure this out somehow on my iPad. But so anyways, let's just do a general recap, okay? So we talked a little bit about triads along the first 3 strings, and we mix them in with triads that you really should already know, especially if you've been following me, which are really just open chords played up the neck. Same thing. It's just that when we leave, like if we're playing an A, if you're playing, you're welcome. If you're playing an A, right, in that position, we tend to play all 5 strings. If we're playing a triad, we're going to play those 3. And once we leave home base on these open chords, whether it's C, A, F, or D, that we tend to move up the neck because they move the best, in my opinion. Once we leave the home base, we can only strum the 3 strings that we're fretting with our fingers. That's it. Now, look, if you hit the string above or below, don't worry about it like I used to do. Beat myself up, you know, I'm useless, I shouldn't be doing this, because I thought it was a huge error. And it's really not a big deal at all. Okay, so don't worry about things like that. But ideally, try to target the strings that you're playing. So if we're playing an A, as we go up here, B, and hey, remember, if you're just joining us, great way to get around playing your B major bar chord. So no more of this. Any of those songs that have a B major bar chord, or if you want to play it here, you can just play the triad right there. A shape moved up 2. There's my new B triad. C, D, E, F, and G. So there's a G triad. These 3 strings at the double dots is a G triad. Okay, yeah, it sounds weak and thin, but it's a G. All triads sound, in my opinion, weak and thin. But it is what it is. Okay, so we combined today, on our first triad day, we learned the major shape on the first 3 strings. Okay, and we knew where we were by following our ring finger on the 3rd string as the root. So in this case, right here is a D, a C, sorry. I'm playing a C major. If I move it up, my ring finger is on the root, D, E, F, and G. So that's the chord I'm playing. And then we learned to get the minor version of that shape, take away the pinky and put the fat finger on string 2 right there. So now we have what looks like an F. It's the same shape as an F and a C, but it's played on different strings. The F is played 1 set up, 1 string up. There's your F, G, right? And this one is played here on the lowest, okay? The first 3 strings. So we have C minor, D minor, E minor. So we learned that today as fresh shapes, okay? We move those are movable, they go right up the neck. Some of you can play further because you got a cutout or you're on electric than others. If your guitar goes like this, you're probably only going to play to here, and after that it's going to get pretty uncomfortable. So we learned that today. And then we went back and mixed it in with what we used to call playing open chords up the neck. But those are actually triads. Once we leave home base, they become triads. And then that taught us we've got an E triad, an F triad using the D chord shape, a G triad, which I use quite a bit, okay? And an A, B, C, simple. We already knew that, but those are triads on the first 3 strings. So now we've got something else. And then, we, as I said, we got our A, so now we can mix and match, right? So we got a G here, C, D, G, C, D, G, G, D, C, G, C, D. So we just played G, C, D different ways, different combinations using triads on this part of the neck. Seems simple, right? And for the most part, it is. Okay? But again, it's like everything. If you take it as a whole and start thinking, okay, I'm going to learn all string sets, right? 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5, and 4, 5, 6. All the shapes on each one, where they are, what the chords are, flatten each third to get the shape that, oh, you're talking 50, 60 more shapes that you can. Well, you're talking, 4 sets of strings. You know, you're looking at a lot more work to do, right? 3 shapes per string, you know, that's 12 more shapes you have to learn. It can be overwhelming. So again, just like we took that approach with learning our bar chords, for us open chord players, and we started realizing we needed a B minor because every song that we seemed to want to play had a B minor in it. After we got rid of our usual simple 3-chord A, E, Ds, and G, C, Ds, and G, A, Ds, the 4th chord was some sort of a minor, A minor, E minor, or B minor. And B minor is a bar chord, so eventually we have to sit down and go, okay. So all I did was learn the B minor, right? And we've done, I'm just giving it a little recap. We've done this already, but there's my B minor, and then all I did was just practice playing it to and from all my open chords. right? Just to get used to that. And I didn't know any other bar chords, didn't need them, just the B minor. So you can approach triads the same way, right? Just pick out a couple of shapes that you feel you can play easily. And remember, they're all movable. So if you learn the one shape, if you can plant, like if say you're coming from a G major, if you can plant that C triad shape, there you know you can C, D, G, C, D, G, C, D, G. You can start working that into your repertoire if you want. Don't worry about the E and the F and all that up here. Just play what you need every day. And believe me, and you already know this, once you get good at that, moving it further to get an E and F or a G up here is going to be so easy. But we gotta get the fingering first. We gotta be able to right? We gotta get that fingering down. Make it sound right. And that doesn't always happen. It's hard. It's difficult. It takes time. Right? But that's what we've done today. In a little over an hour, we've incorporated all these triads into our playing. Okay? And we'll continue on in later shows, and we'll talk about other string sets. Okay? And again, the reason I urge you to start on the higher strings is because that's really where you're going to, in my opinion, that's where they kind of sound the best, and you're going to use them the most, and you're going to end up interchanging them. So let's say you're playing here, and so this would be a D. Whether you're playing a D or a D minor, there's a lot of this that you're going to, and you're already there. Like it's all there. You know, you don't have to come from other parts of the guitar, right? So I think we've covered what I kind of set out today. You know, I do tell you that some shows are going to be a little more advanced than others, okay? And I hope this wasn't over too many heads here. And if it is, don't feel that, again, you don't need this stuff. And I can't say that enough. If it's there if you want it, it's not going to make you a better guitar player by knowing all these triads. Okay? Better's not the word. It will make you a more versatile guitar player. Okay? A more seasoned guitar player, I suppose, because the reality is you do know more technique or can play different chords in many different ways, and that is always valuable. But you don't need it, and that's the thing that I want you to understand. Any of this stuff, right? You don't need to know. It will bring more flavor, Barb, and that's kind of what I'm saying is that it's not going to make you, again, a better guitar player, because you can be a really, really good, you can be an amazing guitar player just playing open chords, right? But again, if you know how to play your G here, right? Or here, okay? Or here, well, you got more weapons. So if you're a golfer and all you have is a driver, a 9-iron, and a putter, you can technically play golf, right? Everybody needs more practice, so don't worry about that, but you're more than welcome. It's just, again, a different way of of looking at things and some different little things you can use. And a lot of them, you probably already knew some of these things. But remember, so the golf analogy, you got 3 clubs you can use. And you can go out and use a driver, and then wherever your ball lands, you can use your 9-iron to get it to the green. Maybe it takes a couple extra shots because it's only a 9-iron, and then you can putt into the hole. No problem. But if you have a, what do they call it, a fairway wood, or if you have a 3-iron, and if you have a pitching wedge, and you put that with your putter, well, now you've got more clubs, more weapons to use depending on where your ball is and how far away you are from the flag. So the guitar, in analogy to compare to that, would be if you can play G, C, and D here, you can play them well, you'll be fantastic. But sometimes you may want to play your G here, or here, or here. And that can only make you better, more versatile, right? So again, you don't need this, but if you want it, this is what you're looking at to go to another level in your rhythm guitar playing. Because that's how this would be classified. So a lot of electric rhythm guitar players in a band, they'll play rhythm guitar using triads. And then you'll have your lead guy that will play from there. Or you'll have another rhythm guy playing in the open position or bar chorded. And then your other electric will play triads with the rhythm and then break into little riffs and licks and runs and leads from that. Okay? So again, once again, I don't want you leaving this thinking, oh my God, if I don't know how to do what he just showed me, then I'm going to be no good. That's not true. And that's so important because that's what happened to me, and that's why I quit. That's why I quit the second time, because I was so smart that when I went back the second time, I did everything exactly like I did the first time. That's how smart I am. And of course, that crashed and burned as well. And it left me thinking that, hey, if I don't know all these fancy things, then I might as well not bother. And it really wasn't until, and I can't remember what it was, I saw something somewhere, and someone said, don't worry about all this stuff that you can't control. Just worry about what you can control. And for me, that was a few open chords. I could do those. I felt good playing those. So that's like the light went off in my head. And I picked up the guitar and I started trying to figure out how many chords do I know? Hey, I know 4 or 5. And then I started working on them, and it became 6, and became 7, and became 8. And when I say play them, I mean play them, like transition to and from. I started to learn little hacks, like how to, again, I used to play my A this way. Now I play it this way. I used to play my G this way. Now I play it this way because it's just easier for other things that I want to do, right? I got this finger free to lay down a quick bar or to maybe grab a note. All that kind of stuff. That comes, right? And that's what I did. And I just started playing those chords over and over again, open chords, playing songs, trying to make the song sound as good as possible, forgetting those riffs at the beginning, those fancy intros. Who cares? Just start. Song starts in A minor. There we go. I went to the store, bought a new rabbit, came home and dyed it pink. Okay, that's all I did. I didn't worry about the little... That was too intimidating for me. I just start playing E minor or C or whatever, or A minor, C, whatever the chord is, right? So, all right. So once again, if you don't know who I am, my name is Ray. Hey, happy Thanksgiving to you too. And I'm here twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Tuesdays for beginners, Thursdays a little more advanced. Both shows open to everybody. There's always something to learn at all levels, okay? And I'm basically a keep it simple kind of guy. I have a small but growing channel. If you'd like to support the channel and myself, the best way to do that is to hit the subscribe button. You'll get notified of anything I release and when I go live. And I do go live outside of the Tuesday and Thursdays. Sometimes I just come on and play songs and stuff like that. And then the video doesn't stay up because it gets copyrighted if I play cover songs. I also play some of my own songs. And, you know, sometimes I'm just practicing and I turn the camera on and say, hey, this is how I practice. You want to watch, you're more than welcome. And away I go, right? So if you want to be notified about that, hit the subscribe button. The other way is to obviously comment and ask questions, comment on videos, ask questions, anything that you'd like to know about. On the community tab, I have a poll. It's one question, and it asks where you are in your journey. There's a few options. You click one, and that helps me a lot because it shows me the majority of people, like where you're at in your journey, so I know what kind of content to maybe produce for you, okay? And of course, if you're really so willing and daring, that many of you have done so far, and I appreciate it so much, is you can buy me a coffee at any time. The link is up in the top of the channel, and it's safe and reliable. It's probably like using PayPal or something, and that's great. It's not expected, but thank you so much for those that have done that. And that's really about it. So again, I'd like to thank everybody for joining, and we'll see you, if not spontaneously, which you probably will over the weekend. I'll see you Tuesday for the beginner show, right? And in the meantime, remember, just play your guitar, right? Because I think that said Tenerife, because that's the only way you get better, is when you play your guitar. And oh, if anybody knows why on my iPhone when I stream, if anybody knows why my messages when you guys comment, I have been playing on and off over the span of the last 8 to 10 years. But realistically, seriously playing, where I made all of my gains and I started writing and performing, doing gigs, writing songs, and really understanding guitar music and how it works, it's been about 6 years, okay? Give or take. And when I say 6 years, I mean that in those 6 years, there isn't very many days in a row that I did not pick up my guitar, even if it was just for 15 or 20 minutes. And there was a stretch of about 3 years that every day religiously for probably an hour or two, taking on advanced techniques, getting frustrated, all that stuff, getting sore, hurting my wrist, all that stuff. You know, you got to put into it to get out of it. If someone had told me it would take that long when I started, I probably wouldn't have started. That's why I'm very hesitant to say, hey, look at me, right? I've been playing X amount of years. I don't like doing that because the reality is I was playing like this pretty early. But as we refine things and take in advanced techniques and work off of the base we already have, it can be time consuming. But again, if I didn't do that, I'd be a darn good open chord player. I mean, I'd be okay. I started writing songs within the first year, right? And when I went back and look at what I did, Those songs are still standing. I'm still singing and playing them. I've made a couple of changes because I realized, oh, I shouldn't have gone to that chord because it's not even in that key, but I didn't know any better. And I replaced it with the proper chord, and lo and behold, oh, that sounds better, right? And that just came from knowing. But I don't want you to think, if for those of you in your first year of playing, I don't want you to sit there and think, oh my God, I got to play 8 years to be any good. No. I know people that have only playing a year and they're actually really good, like really good. And so it all depends, right? We're all different. It all depends what path you choose. It all depends on how, like for me, for example, I could have carved 2.5 years off of this journey like that because I didn't have anybody to tell me, hey, Ray, what do you want to do? Well, I want to play songs. That's it. I just want to play some songs that I grew up with. Okay. Forget learning scales. You don't need that. Forget bar chords. You don't need that. Oh, and that thing about triads and power chord, you don't need that either. Okay? Don't get all hung up on, things you don't need. Nobody told me that. I thought I had to know all of that before I can start playing songs. And it's so important that you understand that you don't. All you need to play songs is you need to know a number of chords, usually 3 or 4. Most songs have the same 3 or 4 chords in the verse. They might have 3 or 4 different chords in the chorus, but when I say different, it means 2 or 3 of them are the same and they've added another one. Or it's the same chords but played in a reverse order. Okay? So all you need is to know the chords of the song you want to play. And when I say play, you need to be able to play chords. You need to be able to transition from one to the other. Okay? Yeah, it's the same thing. I'm sure you know that. I'm not sure if that was your question. If you need any different skills for electric, no, it's the same. Fretboard's identical. The notes are identical. Everything is identical. They're just a little smaller. The fretboards are a little thinner. The frets are a little closer together. The strings are lighter. It's much easier to play an electric guitar, but the philosophy's different, right? An electric guitar with pedals, you can play that G and it could ring out for 2 minutes. Strong, right? So we don't have to keep playing G, 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 G. We just play G once, maybe at the end of the thing, and then again, and it just carries. Where on acoustic, we gotta always play that G because the sound dies. So the theory behind playing your chords are a little different, or your notes on electric, okay? Because you have all this technology, pedals and processors and blah blah blah, right? Okay, we're on acoustic, it only comes out of the hole, sound out of the hole, and you're responsible for that. I can also play bass because, again, the notes of the bass take away these thin strings, and that's your bass. Okay, it's the same notes, same frets, everything's the same. Eddie, 8, dynamite, good. E, A, D, G. There's no B and E. That's the only difference. Okay? The physical difference is the strings are much thicker. They feel like garden hoses compared to these. The frets are wider. The whole fretboard is longer. You got a bigger playing field. Okay? So it's a little more demanding physically to play the bass. But usually when you play the bass at a basic level, you're staying in one area. You're not moving not like an electric where if you're doing a lead or you could play some here, you could play here, and you could play up here. Bass, you kind of tend, until you get more advanced anyways. So I play those two. My electric guitar is here somewhere. And my bass guitar is behind me. And I do like to bring her out once in a while and play, and we'll do a show on the bass for sure. But yeah, look, don't get intimidated by, oh my God, it's going to be 8 years. No, it's going to be one day at a time until you're happy. Okay? Strum the guitar as a piano player, so I'm not sure what you mean by that, okay? I do realize that you look at the piano differently, even though, in my opinion, the piano would be easier theory-wise because, you know, you could look at it and go, well, there's a C, right? There's a C, there's a C, and it's the same all the way up. Where a guitar, it's like, well, there's a C, there's a C, right? Okay, where else do I have a C? Well, I got a C here, and I got a C here, and I got a C here. It's kind of all over the place. Where you look at a piano and everything is laid out symmetrically. But of course, you know, getting your fingers, building up the muscle memory would be very difficult, just like it is here. So I'm not sure what you mean by you strum like it's a piano. Right? But, you know, if you're saying it works for you, then that's fantastic. And that's the end of the day. And that's another thing, you know, there is no one way to do this. And I say this every show because I know there's people joining us first time all the time. Not everybody does this the same way. That's why everybody sounds different. And what works for you may not work for me, which may not work for her, and it may not work for him. So whatever, right? And I know the first 2 times around, if I had have eliminated those 2 years, if someone would have just been there to say, hey, you don't have to do all this. I could have started right in with playing chords, learning my first song, right? So if you are sitting here today and you only know a couple of chords and you're still trying to scramble around and play a song, take a song that you know by heart. You've been listening to it since you were a kid, whatever. Do the inner Google and get the chords. Say there's 4 chords in that song. Learn those 4 chords. Learn the fingering. Now, you don't have to ask any questions because songs are written from chords within the same key, 99% of the time. Okay? So you already know what key you're in, because the songwriter has done that for you. He's written the song, even though they don't tell you the key, they give you the chords, so you don't even have to worry about it. The chords, the 4 chords that are in that song are all from the same key, guaranteed, right? So you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to know anything about that. Just learn those 4 chords. And then you're going to find that there's a lot of patterns, a lot of familiarity. So for example, there are so many songs that have, in any order, these 4 chords. And sometimes they're played. Sometimes they're played. But they're the same 4 chords, right? I'm going to see if I can see that message, that question. Do you mean, Barb, that is it usually the first chord that determines the key? If that's the question, it's a very good question. No. But yes. Majority of the time, yes. The first chord of a chord progression will dictate what key it's in, but not always. And I'll give you an example. So in the key of C, for example, and this is an exception. This is not an exception. This is just an example. It happens in all keys. But you might hear something like, oh, it's a 1-4-5 chord progression. Okay, that means in that key there are 6 chords. We're going to play the 1 chord first, the 4 chord second, and the 5 chord third. So that means in the key of C, the C is 1, D is 2, E is 3, F is 4. So we're going to play 1, 4, C, F, and G, 5. That's why they always sound so good. Because you're playing the 3 major chords, 1, 4, 5. So many songs written like that. Okay? Now, again, we're in the key of C. 1, 4, 5. The second chord in the key of C is a D minor. So we got C, D minor. So it's possible to have a song that starts in D minor. To the F, to the C, to the D minor. So some people will say, oh, that's the key of D minor. No. Because if it was, the second chord would be E minor, and the third chord would be F minor, and on and on and on. Right? But in this case, it's D minor, F, C. That's because it's the key of C. But if you want to play the song, you just tell them it's a one. So C would be a 2, 4, 1 chord progression. 2 is the D minor, 4 is the F, 1 is the C in the key of C, right? So it's D minor, F, C. D minor, F, C. Key of C, but it's D minor is the first. And there's all kinds of examples. There's so many songs in the key of C that start with A minor. That's the 6th chord in C, right? C, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor. Those are the 6 chords. So if you're in the key of C and you're starting on A minor, you'd have a 6, maybe a 1, A minor to C. So 6, 1, 5. 6, 1, 5. But it's the key of C. All right? So just so you know. And again, don't worry too much about that. But if you really want, here. I happen to have this lying around. Something like this will help greatly. You can also use the circle of fifths. That's a little more precise about other things. That usually revolves around the fifths. So meaning the 5th chord of each key is the way they connect. This is a chord wheel. It's the same idea. And all you need to do is there's a spinning thing here. So if I want to learn the chords in the key of D, I would point that to D, and there's all my chords in the border. D, the 1, 4, 5 is D, G, A. The 6 is E minor, F sharp minor, and B minor. So that's 6, 5, 4, or 6, 5, 2. Or I'm sorry, 2, 3, 6 are the minor chords. 1, 4, 5 are the major. But it tells you, and then you spin the wheel. Key of E, we have E, A, and B are my major chords. F sharp minor, G sharp minor, and C sharp minor are my minor chords. So it tells you all that, right? If you want to figure it out by not using this, okay, you use the formula of the major scale. Okay, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 1. So how do I do that? Well, key of C. Let's stick with the key of C. First chord is C in the key of C. Second chord, we go up 2. 2, 2, 1. So C to a D is 2, but it's a 2 chord, so it's a minor. So it's C, D minor. We go up 2 more, 2, 2, 1, right? So 2 more would be an E, but it's a minor, so it's E minor. So now we have C, D minor, E. Now we go to the 4th, which is an F major, because it's a 4. 1, 4, and 5 are major. G, go up 2 more, and you got your G, and it's a major, and you go up 2 more, and you've got your A minor, right? So the chords are C, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, 1 to 6. Okay? And you can figure that out in any key, right? So if you have your chord wheel, right? And you go, let's say, to the key of A. You point it on A. And you use the major formula. So from A, if I went up 2, where am I? Well, A sharp, I'd have to play a B. Okay, now because it's a second chord and not a 1, 4, 5, it'd be a B minor. So I got to play A, B minor, Now I got to go up 2 from B minor, right? Because 2, 2, 1. So I've already done my first 2. Now my second 2 goes from B to C sharp, because there's no sharp after B. And because it's a 3 chord, it's a C sharp minor. So now I've got A, B minor, C sharp minor, okay? The 4th chord is a D. It's a major, so I can play it here. There's D. The next chord is E, right? And it is a major. F sharp minor and G sharp minor to finish it off. And that's how you do it. 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 1. So if the first chord or the key you're wondering, what are the chords? Quick, I don't know the chords in the key of D, right? Okay, now you can go to your chord wheel for sure, or you can go D. Now I got to go up 2. E is the second chord. Then I got to go up 2 more. F sharp is the 3rd chord. And then I got to go up 1. G is the 4th chord. Then I got to go up 2. A minor, right? And that's how it works. Okay, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 1. To find any chord in a key. Start at 1, jump up 2, only jump up 1, and then 2, 2, 2, 1. Right? Let me see what it says. Oh, nice. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I think for me, it was something I always wanted to do. I don't think any one person did, but I can tell you this, by 100%, I know what you're talking about, because even though I already knew I wanted, regardless, I didn't really have a guitar hero, but I wanted to play. But once I started playing and I got to that point where I could play 3 or 4 open chords and sort of somewhat sing a song, I knew I wanted to perform. I knew I wanted to write my own stuff. I knew I wanted to do gigs and things like that. And I can tell you that there were 2 people that were hugely, nobody knows these people, 2 people that were hugely influential. One was a, well, somewhat known Canadian troubadour of the festival and underground scene. Like, you wouldn't see any of his records in the store or hear his stuff on the major, your local radio station. And his name was Bill Bourne. And then a number of years back, I saw a musician at a festival, a guy with a guitar, and wrote all his own stuff. And the way he presented his songs, the way he sang was, as you say, a huge inspiration for me. And that really kind of, he molded me. Like, he was like what I was sort of, this is what I want to be like on stage, like he is. So 100%. And that is so important to have that, right? And don't forget, everybody, we're all doing this for different reasons. I'm sure there's some of you here that are in the the first year of playing, but you have aspirations of really doing something. So you should be practicing and dedicating your time accordingly to get there. Now, there's others of you, again, you just want to, on a Friday night, have your buddies over and drink some beers and play some songs, pass the guitar around, or your buddy has one, he brings his too, and you get a little jam going, whatever. Hey, you don't have to be Eddie Van Halen to have fun and participate in those types of things, right? So, all you need to do is have a basic understanding of what's going on around you, okay? So if someone is sitting there playing D, A, G, a song that's got D, A, and it goes to G, if you're at a very basic level, then what I would do, and you only know your open chords, then what I would do, I wouldn't try to mimic him strum for strum, especially if he's got experience. What I would do is I would start out by just playing every first beat of the measure. So D, 2, 3, 4, A, 2, 3, 4, G, 2, 3, 4, G, 2, 3, 4, A, 2, 3, 4, A, 2, 3, 4, D, 2, 3, 4, D, 2. That's what I would do. Okay? And then maybe when you get comfortable, do a 1 and a 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you're not stepping on anyone's toes. You're building your timing. You're learning to play with another player so that you're in the same sync, okay? Like you're synced to the same beats per minute and rhythm. That's how I would do it. Okay. Now, conversely, if you know a bar chord or two, then what I would do is if it was D, A, G, and I knew some bar chords, then I would play bar chords, right? So I'd play D, A, G, right? D, A, G, along with him playing open chords. Or if he's playing bar chords, if he's playing D, A, G, then I'd play D, A, G, right? That kind of stuff. And just weasel my way in and just be so careful not to be, well, you know, a guy that's all over the place. Keep it controlled, right? And I know for me, the first time I tried that, I just stopped dead. When someone started playing with me, I just stopped. I was like a deer in the headlight. I was too overwhelmed. And I couldn't play with other people. Had a hard time until I started that, just playing that one strum on the down, on the first chord change. C, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, D, 2, 3, right? And there's 3, 4 people all playing. You don't look out of place. Half people don't even realize that you're only playing on the intro, the first down. A lot of people don't even realize it, right? They're worried about what they're doing. You know, so, but for sure, playing with someone is really important, and knowing how to fit in regardless of your skill level. So if all you know is a few open chords, don't try to do things you can't do, because you're setting yourself up for failure and, well, potentially irritating people. And there's always that person that will tell you that you're being irritating and that you're way off or something, and then it gets in your head. And once it's in your head, you have a hard time with that, right? So for me, I found this very physically demanding, but I found it more mentally demanding. I found my confidence would take a beating. And that's why, you know, and I don't want to get too far off topic here, but that's why it took me longer than the average person, because I had it in my head that I couldn't do this, that I wasn't meant to do this, that I wasn't supposed to be a musician. I wasn't supposed to be a guitar player. I'd never done this in my life, okay? So that was always in the back of my head, that I really shouldn't be doing this. And even though you're getting okay, don't worry, it's all going to come crashing down, because you know what? You're not a musician. And I was always told, you got to be born with it. And that's just a load of bull, okay? I'll tell you that right now. It helps if you were around it at a young age, absolutely, but you're not born with it, okay? We all have our things that we're better at than others, but you're not necessarily born. It's something that you're around from day one, okay? You're around music. You have a brother or father that plays an instrument, so you kind of have you watch them. You have maybe whatever. That all helps. But my biggest thing was that I had it in my head that I couldn't be a guitar player because I'm not a lifelong musician. So that was always in my head. Now, some of you, who cares? You're the type that go, screw you, I'll do it anyways. I'll show you. I wasn't like that. I was like, oh, I guess they're right. I shouldn't be able to play because I really never played before in my life. And that always held me back. So I felt that my journey was way more mental, or as much mental as physical. And once I got it in my head, and that didn't happen for years, once I got it in my head that, what? I think I'm okay at this. Like, I'm no superstar, but I'm pretty good, and I play nice chords, like they sound okay, and I can sing a little bit, and I'm sounding all right. And once I started to believe that, well, then everything was different, right? And I always tell people, once you think you're a guitar player, you're a guitar player. But so many of us go way, way too long thinking that we're not guitar players, that we're beginners. And one of the reasons, and this is why I always say, and what happened to me in those 2 years, that, 2.5 years with the quitting, like, you set yourself up for failure if you don't have a plan and you don't know what you're going to do and what you need to do to get the job done to what you want to do. Meaning, going back to what I told you, what do you want to do on guitar? Well, I just want to play some of my favorite songs. Great. Then you don't need this, you don't need this, you don't need this. Forget about that and forget about this. Take the time that you have and concentrate on this, this, and this. And if you do those three things and concentrate your time on those things, then in a couple of months, you'll be playing songs. Basic versions of songs. You won't play the intro riffs, you won't play the leads, you won't play any of the accoutrements and all that, but you'll play the basic chord progression and be able to get people to sing along. Okay? Guaranteed. So, me, again, I didn't know that. So I start learning all these things, taking on these things. And I get people, I've had people this week, at least 4 or 5 of you have written and said, yeah, you know what, that's my problem, is I take on something, and before I kind of figure it out and get a hold of it, I jump over to try to learn something else. And then a week later, I jump over and try something else. And a week later, okay? Well, what happens and what is happening when you do that is you're only scratching the surface of all these different techniques and things like that, right? You're not mastering anything. So what happens is every day you pick up your guitar, and today's the day. All right, today's the day. And you start on bar chords, and the first few, oh, they sound terrible. Oh, God. Oh, wait a minute. Is it this way? Oh, okay, hold on. You know what? Okay, you know what? I'm going to play my open chords, and you start, okay. I just learned A minor, okay, and then I got my E minor, and I'm not really happy. You know what? I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Today, I'm going to work on scales, right? See you. Oh, did I hit that wrong? Oh, there it is. Oh, see, look, I know there, look. All right. Oh, what a great day this is. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. I just played the A minor pentatonic up and down. Hey, you know what I'll do now? I'm going to go back and try some bar chord. All right, forget it. Because what happens now is every day you do that, every day you sound terrible. It's frustrating. Your wrists and hands are sore. Well, and you sound crap. You always sound that way. So your brain says, hey, buddy, you stink, okay? You sound terrible. And I'm not going to give you the motivation to keep going because you sound terrible and you're not getting any better. And when that happens every day, eventually you put the guitar down and you say, thank you very much, see you later. And you don't pick it up. And that's what happened to me. Whereas when it worked for me the third time, I would play my open chords. And I got them to the point where I could play them pretty good. Now, I wanted to pick up my guitar. I didn't play bar chords, I didn't play scales, I didn't play power chords, I didn't play triads, I didn't play anything but open chords. And I sounded good. And now my brain's going, hey, you're getting pretty good. Let's give you some more motivation. Let's get you going. And every time, every day goes by, you sound good. So you want to keep doing it. Right? Now I'm playing songs. Now I'm writing songs. Now I'm working on my singing because my open chords are on autopilot because I'm not jumping around. Bar chords, power chords, scales, this, that, one thing. And then it just happened. And I just started getting better. And then I would not see someone for 3 weeks and they'd say, holy jumping, Holy jumping, you're sounding good. And I'm going, really? Hey, cool. Thanks, man. Right? And you just keep going. And you'd be surprised how positive your journey is and how productive it is when you like what you're doing. Not every day, was it this? What? I can't get that. Why does that string always, why does it sound clunky? Every day, it just does your head in. Because you're always jumping around and you're always trying to learn something new. And no matter what you did, if you're learning the computer, you're learning Windows, or you're learning how to build a car, or how to build a house, or whatever it is you're trying to learn, how to cook, right? If you keep trying to do all these advanced techniques when you're not ready to do them, you're going to fail, and it's going to be horrible. And you're never going to like it, and eventually you're just going to quit. And that's what happens. So that's why I say it like a robot over and over again. Someone said, oh, you always talk about certain things about this, that, and the other. Yes, because they are so important. And it's not like, even though in some cases I'm talking to you the same twice a week for whatever, we've got new people joining us all the time. And they've got to hear this message. And they've got to understand that, look, relax. All those fancy things are there, and they're not going away, and they're going to be there when you're ready and able to learn them. But now's not the time. The first year, you should be really only worried about sounding good. Getting your open chords to sound that you can sit down with anybody and play along. Sing, whatever it is. Then, once you've got this guitar foundation, it comes with the confidence and the attitude and the swagger. Now you can sit down and go, okay, hey, let's learn some triads. Let's figure out this bar chord thing. Let's learn guitar theory. Let's learn notes and scales. Let's learn, absolutely. All right, so. All right, everybody. Well, I think we've covered quite a bit today, and I hope that, as usual, you kind of hopefully leave here with practice, practice, practice. Exactly. Couldn't say it better myself. And I'd like to read something someone sent me. Let me just find it. I think I made a note of it. Let me just see if I can. All right. Here's what someone sent me in regards to this kind of stuff that I talk about quite a bit, okay? Hi, Ray. Love your stuff. Thank you so much. You've been a big help. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so here we go. So if you ever look up songs for bar chord practice, okay, on the Google, it'll be the same 5 or 6 songs on every list. And these are songs that I either don't know or can do without, honestly. If they are really that important, you'd see them more. Power chords seem substantially more important. I learned bar chords because my instructor told me to. But other than that, just practicing bar chords, I haven't found one song that I like that I can use all bar chords on them. The exception would be only B's and F's. But other than that, I can't find a song I like to utilize them. You're better take that time and practice stuff that you'll use or I'll use. Just my humble opinion. I can see why they'd be useful to a working musician, but not for me. Okay? So basically, what he got out of listening to me was reinforcement that, hey, you don't need all that fancy stuff. And at the end of the day, you can play any song out there using open chords, and if need be, you throw a capo on. Okay? That's it. You don't need the fancy stuff. If you want to learn it, like we talked earlier, it'll make you a more versatile, more well-rounded guitar player, but not necessarily better. Okay? So, again, don't get hung up on things that you think you got to do. And I had someone else when I really asked them, I said, like, what is your obsession with bar chords? Why do you want to learn bar chords so badly? Why do you feel that that's what you have to do? And he said, because it looks cool. Well, I didn't even know how to respond to that. Okay, it looks cool. So, you know, you'd rather look cool sounding bad than look not cool but sound real good. And I don't think playing open chords will make you look not cool, because at the end of the day, if you sound good, you're cool. All right. And, you know, I've had more than a few people tell me that they think that when they watch someone play, it looks so much better when they play bar chords. And that may or may not be to your liking, but it does not make you a better player. If you don't play your if you don't execute them properly, they're going to sound not good, right? Someone else was turned off by the fact that, well, these are called cowboy chords. And well, look, there's a reason they're called cowboy chords, okay? It does not mean that you are a cowboy in a sense of being an idiot or something like that. That's not what that means. Cowboy chords simply mean that those are the chords, those are the basis of country music. Those open chords, those C's, D's, E minors, A minors, and G's. Those are the staple. That's the root and the basis of country music. Okay? One very high-end guitar guy that I saw an interview with said, you know what I call those chords? Money chords. Because those chords almost exclusively are the start and the genesis of some of the most popular songs that we've ever heard and bought and played in our lifetime, that have made millions and millions of dollars for the songwriters and the bands. That's why they call them money chords, because they were all made from someone sitting down on an acoustic guitar going, let's see now, if I play C, oh, that's a good little thing. Oh, now I can sing. Oh, yeah, that's good. That's how all songs are started. Okay? Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Or the equivalent would be a pianist playing them on a piano. Absolutely, it's an endless journey, and you just got to figure out where to get on. Well, everyone's got to get on at the same place, but where to get off, when you want to jump back on, and what you do in between. Like, that's so important. You know, you can dedicate 30 years to this instrument and still not know it all, and still have room for improvement. So that's why I'm saying, you know, I don't like saying, well, I've been playing for 10 years. I've been playing for 6 years. Because I don't want someone to look at me and go, okay, so I got to wait 6, 8, 10 years so that I can be fluent chord player and sing some songs and write some songs, play the odd bar chord. No, it doesn't mean that. It's just what I went through and how I did it. And again, take away those 2.5 years, and I'd have been a lot better, a lot quicker. But I wasted 2.5 years on doing things that I'm telling you not to do yet. You can do them, but do them at the back end when you've, again, as part of that ongoing learning curve. Don't do it from day one, because it'll just set you back, because they're too difficult and you don't understand it. And it'll sound bad and you'll sound terrible and you'll quit. All right. So don't forget to go to the community tab. There's a link there for today's lesson. It's a couple of images on what we talked about, those triads, okay? And it shows you. There you go. Absolutely, Terry. Thanks for that. Thank you so much. And he's absolutely right. okay? You know, I know people personally that have been playing 25 and 30 years, and we sit down, we're just shooting the shit, and I'll say something, and they go, Ray, I just, you're right. I didn't know that in 30 years. And you just like, oh my God, check it out. You know how many times that's happened? As often as I have learned from people, you know, as well, and had a light bulb moment, that happens. And that used to happen to this one particular fellow, 25 years or more he'd been playing. And I don't know how many times he went, you know what, Ray, you have no idea how much I learned from you. And I don't mean here on the show or the channel. This is before I started doing that, when I was a real novice. And everyone can learn from everybody. And I had another person in that circle, was a really good guitar player, plays lead guitar and all that, and is in a band. And we got talking one night, this and that, and I go, you know, it really helped, you know, being around you guys when I was starting out because, you know, not the first time I started out because I had nobody, but, you know, when I say started out, when I actually, you know, started playing well, and I go, it's been so good because I can run things, I can just watch and run things by you and stuff. And the guy said, with all seriousness, he said, Ray, do you have any idea how much that I've stolen from you over this last, you know, few months we've been sort of hanging out? And I went, what? Like I've only been playing for a year or so. Everybody can learn from everybody. Okay? That's right. Exactly. And that's why I know, again, people that have been following me, uh, you know that I get upset sometimes. In fact, I lose my temper at certain people that come in here and they make fun or you know make a comment about things like using a capo and that guitar snobs, right? And you know what? You hear me sometimes I go off on these people because exactly what you just said. Everybody can learn from everybody at every stage of the way. Okay, and there will always be people lower than you. And there will always be people higher than you. So you will never get, I don't know, maybe Jeff Beck, maybe Jimmy Page. We're talking elitism. Ron Wood, people that have been playing 50 years at a high level and have made millions from their music. I think they could stand up on a box and say, you know what? I know everything. And I don't even know if they do that. Right? But they probably could because they probably do know everything there is to ever learn and have probably invented some of those things themselves. So, I'm very funny that way. Not much bothers me, but that bothers me. When someone comes into an obvious situation where it's a kind of a beginner or learner's channel and they start preaching like they're some, you know what, bud? I don't know who you are and where you're from, but I can bring 2-3 people just in my area that would blow you away, right? And then I could go out and find 2-3 people in another area that could come into my area and blow them away, and on and on and on. So, you know, and so many times, like, you go back to the basics and you go, yeah, if things, like there were little things that you would not really get in your early part of your journey and you don't really know, and you just kind of keep going and you pass that over, you gloss it, put it away, and you just keep going. And then 2 years later, you see a video or something and you go, oh shit, that's, now it makes sense. Yes. But then it didn't. You know what I mean? And just, I don't know. So. And for me, look, I don't deny. I am an open chord player. I'm a rhythm guitar player. Okay. Yeah, I play around, I play along, play some riffs and stuff. Absolutely. And I'm working on that all the time. But my goal for this guitar was I wanted to play songs that I grew up with. Songs from the 70s. Right? Then I realized that I've always been a writer. I've always been a word writer. And I realized that I can write songs. And all I'm missing is some guitar, foundation. So once my open chord playing got to a point, I could write music and write verses and choruses. I didn't stop. And then I thought, okay, this can't be right because I'm not a songwriter and everything. So what I did was I went out, which I encourage you to do, to open mics and open jams or whatever, and I would play my songs. Now I didn't know how to play any other songs, just maybe the couple that I'd written, and a couple of covers just in case. And I've gone to these open mics. I've told you many times, I've played 2 or 3 songs, cover songs, all with the same chords in them. And I thought I was playing them okay. And people said, wow, yeah, you're pretty good. But they didn't know that those were the only chords that I knew and the only 2 songs I knew. And I did the same when I started writing. So I'd go out and I'd play my 2 songs that I had written at the time. And that's all I played. And, it's like being at a restaurant. When the server comes over to your table and says, how was everything here? Most of us just say, you know what? Everything was fine. Thank you very much. Meanwhile, we're thinking, what a load of crap this was, right? Okay, because we don't want to upset them. It's not their fault, etc. What I really want to know is, what do they say when they step out of the restaurant, right? Or the person that gets up from the table and goes to the chef and says, excuse me, I don't want to bother you. I just had your thing. Best I've ever had. Thank you so much. You didn't ask them. They wanted to tell you. Okay? So when I started going out and playing my songs, there's only 2 I knew. The odd time at the beginning, the odd time someone would say, hey, I like that song. It was really good. Thanks very much. They didn't have to say that. So I'm assuming that it's true. And then it started to happen more and more and more and more. And then you get confidence, right? Yeah, exactly. But again, Terry, unfortunately, a lot of people don't think that way. But, you have to be, when it comes to yourself, you can't be ignorant to the fact that you're the best and that everything you do is the best. You can't, because it's generally not true. So it's not good to be overly confident. But we need a certain level of confidence to push. I mean, this is something very, again, I was a chef in my lifetime. And, right away you're set up for failure, because you could do your best, and if you get 6 or 7 out of 10 people that really like that dish, hey, you're doing good. That means 3 or 4 did not like it, or it was nothing special. But overall, you're ahead of the game. 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10. You're putting art out there, whether it's drawings, photographs, music, cooking, whatever it is. You're putting it out there and saying, look at me. You're going to get people that are not going to like it. Oh, yeah, sure. So remember that. You're not going to ever please everybody, okay? So when you start going out to look for advice on how you're playing or what your songs are like or whatever, don't go in there thinking, okay, everybody's going to like my stuff, right? And don't be asking someone and they say, hey, yeah, that was good, man. That means nothing. But if you get people coming up to you, hey, good guitar playing, man, it was good. Or nice song, I like the lyrics, or whatever, then I think you can book that as gold. And the more and more you start hearing that, that's your gauge. That's how you know, hey, maybe I'm getting better at this, right? Without being arrogant or full of yourself, you can sit down and it's okay to say, you know what, I'm getting good. And we need that as artists. We need validation. And that spurs confidence, and that just pushes us. Why do I have the sound hole covered? Yeah, it's not overly pertinent right now. I had it covered before to stop a bit of feedback I was getting when I was recording some stuff. All right, so what I do is I'm using what's called a condenser mic. It picks up, it's not one of those where you got to eat it like this, right? Hey, well, thank you. And I hope, we can get little nuggets of things that give you light bulb moments as well. The reason it's covered is it's just to cut down on, as an acoustic, everything comes out of here, right? And this mic can be overly sensitive, and if there's too much coming out, it tends to get just too sharp and gritty in the microphone, okay? But normally these here are when you're on stage and you're using a monitor, which I'm not. I'm monitoring myself with earbuds, okay? But when you're on stage and you have a monitor, and so the monitor is throwing back into your face your voice and your guitar so you can hear yourself, right? And that's so important. You have to be able to really quality hear yourself on stage, or else you don't know what's going on. Well, what happens is a lot of times the monitor will push into the sound hole and you will get feedback because your amp in here, or whatever they call it, the preamp, will pick up the monitor, and now you'll have what they call feedback. You'll hear that and stuff like that. So this sound hole cover prevents stuff from going into the hole that will be then regurgitated out your PA system. Because when you're on stage, you're usually plugged in. So the sound of the guitar is actually going through a cable into your mixer, right? So you don't need this sound hole to make noise when you're plugged in. This is for when we play acoustic. So, but today I have it on just because I have this mic, and it gets a little harsh when you know, it just makes a bit of a difference. It just mellows things out a little bit. But usually these are used when you're on stage with a live monitor, okay, to cut down on feedback. Yeah, we won't be dancing. Oh, sorry. Got to fix this. Nice, nice. Nice, Randy. That's the way to go, right? Take it slow, take it controlled. Don't think, like I know sometimes they go, okay, you got 3 songs. It doesn't mean you have to play 3 songs. You can play 1. You can play 2, right? You can play. So it's da 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 da. This thing, oh, something like that. Yeah, I'm not sure of it, but it's something like that. I think I did it. Yeah. Da 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 da. This thing. No, there's a B flat in there too somewhere, but I think I used to play that song. Anyways, all right. So again, you know, let's not get too far off topic here. I think that the main thing, as always, is just decide what's for you. Do what you do the best. Don't take on anything too complicated too quick, right? And that's so important. And just keep sounding good and moving forward. And, you know, there's so many resources for information. There's all kinds of people on YouTube. There's different social media platforms. Find something and someone that talks to you the way you need. I know for me, I needed someone to really dumb it down. I didn't get that. I didn't understand what they were showing me. I needed a level under that to understand why he was showing me this, you know, and I didn't get that, and it was confusing. And then I used a book, Guitar for Dummies, and I couldn't ask questions. I didn't understand something, and, you know, it was hard, right? So just stay in the course, plotting away. You'll be just fine, right? All right, so we will see you at the very latest next Tuesday for beginners and, well, for anybody. And again, I will jump on over the weekend, and if you're subscribed, you'll get notified, and maybe we'll play some songs and have a little bit more fun at that point, all right? Okay, everybody, we'll see you later. And once again, thank you so much for your ongoing support. It makes a big difference, You know, the likes, the comments, the suggestions, all that stuff, the subscriptions, they just keep going up and they just get more and more. And by no means is this anything that, I am going to, as they say, quit your day job over. but, but it really does get better. I'm starting to get interest from companies that are poking around for these like endorsement deals. And while my numbers aren't, ideal to everybody, I do have an appeal to certain companies, and it's me that's saying no right now. But as we grow and continue to grow, that's another option. So it's been a lot of fun, and I truly, truly enjoy. If anybody has a light bulb moment because of me, if anybody has a light bulb moment because of me, I am so happy. That makes my day, because those light bulb moments, when they come, they're so rewarding, and it's just, I'm happy to be a part of it. So anyways, we'll see you down the road, okay? Bye for now, and remember how I always end my videos. Remember, just play your guitar, because in the end of the day, that's the only way that you're going to get better, is to actually play the guitar. Okay? All right, what do we got here? Let's see what we got here. Oh, nice and slow.